when I came to the Met in 1971, you know, I was 27 or so, and I felt like a very young conductor, and now at 35, still historically a young conductor, but, you know, with you here conducting this opera, and with the man who sang Scarpia with me being the director with you, and Shirley Verrett singing her first Tosca, and Luciano singing his first Cavaradossi, I mean, at the Met, and now with the chance for this opera, this fabulous masterpiece, to be seen by so many people on television. And of course, it's got to be an absolutely historic first. The two friendly conductors are seen on film or television conversing about music. Usually one conductor in the room seems to be enough.
There usually can only be one conductor in the room.
That's quite true.
Well, the old joke about you can't too many cooks. It's very difficult in the days when conductors were conceived of as very competitive. I suppose one is in a friendly sense. One wants to do one's best, and we're always learning from one another.
You came to Tosca first. How? You were in a children's chorus?
Well, yes. In fact, it was in a tent on Long Island, and I was one of the kids. My voice had changed, but I wouldn't tell the chorus master that because I was afraid I'd get kicked out and wouldn't be able to be in it. So I sang everything with a falsetto.
And how old were you?
I was about 13 or 14.
And when I was just a couple years younger than that, I went to see my first Tosca, and I went back and told the leading lady someday I wanted to conduct Tosca, and she very sweetly wrote in my autograph book that someday she'd sing Tosca with me, and it turned out she did in fact sing the first performance of Tosca that I ever conducted, which was at the San Francisco Opera. A great soprano called Dorothy Kirsten, also an American.
I had a very similar experience. My my Metropolitan Opera debut, which was 2 years ago, was the Magic Flute. And when I was about 12 or 13, I was the middle of a dragon that was cut up in 3 parts. My older brother was the front part of that dragon. And 3 of the ladies who participated were also participating the night I made my debut at the Metropolitan Opera.
But one thing I wanted to ask you before we got too far afield. Conducting Tosca is, well, similar to conducting other operas, but is there anything about conducting Tosca which is specifically more fun or more exciting for you than conducting other pieces?
Well, every work I do, I feel particularly at that moment is more fun or more exciting.
We all do.
But theatrically speaking, Puccini is a special case because almost every moment in the score is accounted for dramatically, or I should say the opposite as well. Almost everything in the music is inspired by the dramatic situation. In fact, Puccini often said that. He needed the dramatic idea, the right word, the right line, before he could even begin to conceive of the music. And
right.
Tosca gives a great example of this, in that so many of the actions on stage are paralleled in the music. The music, in a certain sense, almost gives the stage direction.
Let's play some music from Tosca.
Well, we thought it might be nice that if we could communicate some of the way that Puccini has given each character a statement. Opera began with Scarpia. In fact, his presence is already spoken before the curtain goes up. In other words, he's a dominating force. And so much is taken from this
indescribable fun to conduct those first 2 bars.
I enjoy it. Now, we've already been able to show you how Scarpia
begins the
dominates the whole opera. Now, immediately thereafter, we're introduced to Angelotti. You hear the frenetic pace of a man who's just run out of prison, who's out of breath, and the whole character will be dominated by this sense of flight, this sense of fear, and you can hear the frenetic pace of the music and how well Puccini has expressed that.
Right.
We also find shortly thereafter a comic theme, for instance. This is the sacristan who comes and cleans the church. Certainly a character designed to give a little local color, a little comic relief. Then,
and to be played off in a later scene, I mean, this comic character against the villain of the piece.
Now, we do find Cavaradossi is introduced. you can hear the somewhat heroic character or the romantic lead, as it were. Here's a very nice little effect. When Cavaradossi begins to paint the painting, you can almost hear him mixing the colors on the palette. They almost seem to mesh together. And now he has his color. There it is.
That's right.
A marvelous little effect. You'll also find when Tosca enters,
Yes.
it's a little bit difficult to show it on the piano, but one can hear it very easily in the orchestra. The melody on top, of course, is Tosca. However, those notes in the middle are the carriage and the horses, which has just been dropped off in her carriage.
Another sharp
Pizzicatos-
contrast, because the music is very lyrical and very grand, and she comes rushing in because she's in a jealous fit. And of course, the music is not rushing or jealous at all. That's musically saved for later on.
Now, it's not always a character that has a theme. Occasionally, it's a place or an object. For instance, that is the villa, the love nest for Cavaradossi and Tosca that they often refer to, and will be used throughout the opera whenever that is referred to.
And of course, here are these wonderful, wonderful places where one comes right together with another.
The villa and Angelotti.
And Puccini, of course, all great composers had their own ways, always, their own special individual ways of coming up with new ideas, connecting them, having them recur, new music in between, and this incredible intertwining of these musical ideas with the text and with the dramatic situation is very, very difficult to describe, but it's, you know, Puccini's special way.
I have a particular favorite.
Yes?
That I found that I'd like to exemplify.
I'll do my best to play it if you'll...
You'll see. In the very, very first scene, there's a moment of silence on stage after, while Angelotti is looking for the key, he knows that he's to find them at the Madonna, the statue of the Madonna. And he searches during this music. Then we come to these two bars. Would you like to repeat those last three bars so the audience can hear them? Very nice. Now, I call that the theme of the Madonna,
Yes.
the statue. Now, after Angelotti has gone off into the chapel, there's one moment of silence, and it is as if the camera focuses in on our Madonna there.
In the same key?
Right. Now, several minutes later, the sacristan comes in, and he's cleaning up all over the church,
Yes.
and I think he sweeps her off. There she is again. Right.
Exactly.
Now the most
that's a great example, because that's exactly Puccini's special way of using his musical material.
And he saves her up for a very special moment in the second act. When Tosca gives the assent to Scarpia, one moment before, being a very good religious girl, she gives her thought to the Madonna. And then agrees. And that theme becomes the theme of the execution.
Exactly.
The
Wonderful.
orders of the execution are given over it, and also, or the orders for the mock execution, and then the real execution takes place to that theme in the last.
This is all
subtle, marvelous.
as subtle, as interesting as it can possibly be. And all I can say is, anyone who comes in without knowing any of this will still feel all of it. Because
Absolutely.
so skillfully is it done, it goes straight into the nervous system without needing interpretation.
Well,
at
I have
all.
to tell you, I had already known Tosca for 10 years, conducted it in 2 different productions before I discovered that relationship there. And I'm sure, in fact, I experience this every time I come back to this work, as in many others.
Always seeing.
Always finding something new. There's
We always do.
something new, and that's what makes producing an opera over and over again so exciting, because you're
In
always
fact,
finding.
that's what also accounts for the fact that the moment we finish doing a run of performances, all we really want to do is have a chance to do them again,
Again,
because
better,
you know,
exactly.
better and more perception and better realization of all these incredible things.